morning, students. Today let us have a class on international trade theory and policy. So yesterday's class I discussed the theoretical analysis of two theorems, that is Stopler-Samuelson theorem and Rybinski theorem. Okay. So now let us look into this Stopler-Samuelson theorem with the help of an diagram. Yesterday's class we have discussed about the theoretical part of this theorem. Is one of the important theorem Samuelson theorem. So it is in the page number 290. You can in your textbook which I asked you to download, there you can go and type like in a search column and you will get the page. So it is in page number 290. Okay. So today we will discuss about Stopler-Samuelson theorem using with the help of an example and a graph. What the Stopler-Samuelson theorem demonstrates? Stopler-Samuelson theorem demonstrates that how the change in the output prices affects the change in the price of the factors. When the production is positive and at a point of zero economic profit are maintained in each industry. So what the Stopler-Samuelson theorem states that, so whenever there is a change in the price of the output of the commodity will have an impact on change in the price of the factors. So due to this, because of a perfect competition which exists in the market, normally the industries, all those industries which are producing the same commodity will try to be at zero economic profit, and they'll try to maintain a zero economic profit in order to be in the market. So with this assumption, so let us try to understand Stopler-Samuelson theorem. Okay. So let us have certain assumption. So we assume that there is a perfect competition which exists in the market. So there are more number of manufacturers producing the same type of commodity. So since as the price of the goods in the market increases, but still the economic profit may not increase. Why? Because more number of industries will get into the market, they start producing the commodities, and they will try to maintain a minimum of zero economic profit. Okay, keeping this a perfect competition exists in the market, let us try to understand this Stopler-Samuelson theorem. The first assumption what we made is there is a perfect competition in all the market, in all the markets. In this perfect market, if the production occurs in an industry, what happens? The economic profit is driven to zero. In the initial stages, the economic profit may be more than zero, but gradually, due to the more number of entrants into the market, the economic profit will drive to zero. The zero profit condition in each country may imply like this in the form of an equation. Say profit, that is P, represent PS is equal to ALSW plus AKS into R. Okay, so it is supply and this is a P. S represent here production of steel. Okay, PS production of steel using labor and capital. L represent labor, K represent capital. It is a labor ALS. It is the supply of labor. So when labors are supplied, they will be paid with wages. So W represent wages. So ALSW plus AKS. AKS represent supply of capital. So when capital is invested into the business, so we are going to pay them the rent. So the production equation for steel, we are going to take two commodities here, that is steel and cotton. We'll take two countries assumption. There will be two countries and two commodities are manufactured. The one is steel, another is cotton. Steel production is a capital intensive, adopts capital intensive technique, and in production of cotton a labor intensive techniques is adopted. But still it cannot be let us look into the production of steel. The production of steel may not happen only by utilizing the capital. There will be few factors of laborers which are also been involved in producing the steel, but it will be less when compared to capital. Okay, so PS is equal to ALSW plus AKSR. And now let us look at the equation of production of cotton. PC is equal to ALCW plus AKC into R. Here also ALC represent it is the number of laborers which are used. C represent production of cotton. So when laborers are used, wages is paid, and plus AKC, the capital which inputs for production of cotton, rent is paid. Okay, so where PS and PC are the prices of steel and clothing. So now we are going to determine the price of this production of steel and production of cotton. So PS represent the price of a steel taking into two factor inputs, that is how much wage is been paid for the labor input and how much rent is paid to the capital input. Adding these two will get the price. PC is also the price of clothing. So here we are taking these two factors, and initially we have considered that only these two factors have been added to determine the price. Why is it so? Why profit is not added? Because we assume that the production takes place at zero economic profit. Okay. Now with this, let us see the wage is W is the wage paid to laborer and R is the rental rate on capital. Okay. So what happens to the ALSW? ALSW is calculated, that is by labor, number of labors minus number of hours divided by per ton production. To produce the per ton production, how much number of labors and labor hours are utilized for producing a ton commodity. And next, it is the dollar by labor minus labor per hour. So this represent, it is the number of units of dollar which is in paid to the labor per hour. So while taking these two calculations, we at last we determine that it is the dollars per ton. It is the dollar payment to workers per ton of steel produced. So per ton of steel when it is produced in a firm, how much units of dollars been paid to the workers. So it is dollar by ton will represent ALSW. While AKSR, what is AKSR? It is the capital which is being used in producing steel and the rent into the rate of capital, rental rate of capital. So how is it calculated? Let us look into this. Capital per hour divided by ton into dollar by capital per hour. So when we calculate, when we cancel this capital per hours on both sides, we get with dollar by ton. It is the dollar payment to the capital owners per ton of steel produced. So it clearly says that how much is the payment made, what is the payment of rent, rate of capital, rental rate of capital paid to the capitalist. It is dollar by ton. Okay. So the right hand side, the sum of these dollars paid to all factors per steel is produced. Now, if the payment to these factors for each ton is produced equal to the each price per ton, so now we can understand it is both are equal. That it means that the factors whatever is used, which is equal to the price per ton, then the profit must be zero in the industry. Okay. So since taking this as an assumption, let us try to understand how the production. So let us imagine the firm treats prices exogenously, means the price which has been considered only on these two factors, all those endogenous factors are neglected. Now we'll plot a graph taking this the zero profit lines of producing cloth and steel, and we plot this 2 0 profit condition in wage rental space. We will try to plot this zero profit line on a graph. Okay, so this graph represent the x-axis represent the number of laborers who are employed for producing cotton and steel, and the y-axis represent the unit of capital which is used for producing steel and capital. So now look into this. PC, the line, the red dotted line represent the price of cotton. The cotton is represented in the line and which starts from PC. This is the red line which represents the production of cotton. So in order to produce the production of cotton, okay, so it's a zero profit line. So now there's another line PS, a blue line which represents the price of steel. This line represents the price of steel, where steel is produced by utilizing two factors, that is capital and labor. So now let us see the set of all wage and rental rates that will generate zero profit in the steel industry at the price P5. PS is a line. This is the line on which the profit is zero. If any production, if it is below this line, will get you profit, and any price above this line. What is this? What price? So let us understand. It is not a unit price of the commodity. It is the unit cost price of the factors of production which are used. If your production is above this line, say let us take the production is happening at D. So what this represent? This represent the unit cost of production which is used in the production is more. The cost is increasing. Okay. So if your production is going to be bit below this line, say C or B. B is the point. Imagine. So what does this point B represent? The B represent that C and B, these are the 2 points which we can just understand are below this price line of steel. So any production which is going to happen at any of these 2 points will fetch a profit to the industry. Why? The cost price are lesser than the zero profit price. Understood? So this is the zero profit, means here the cost price which is being determined, which is equivalent to the production. At any production which is below this line will represent that the firm is taking up the production with lower cost price. So any cost price between C or B will have a positive impact and the firm will incur profit. So likewise, if you take a cotton, this is the line. You can also call this as the budget line. We would have studied in earlier classes, budget line. This is a line, likewise the cost line. This line represents the cost, where no loss, no profit, and where there is a zero profit. So any production above this line there are 2 points B and D. If an industry takes up any of these two, and if it produces the commodity, obviously the firm produces the commodity with increased cost of production, which will be, the profit will be negative. And if the industry take up the production below this line A or C, if the firm wants to produce cotton, it can either can take A and C, and these 2 points represent the production of these two commodities, where the firm will be producing with a less cost of production, so profit is more. Okay, with this, now let us look into the sentences given below. At wage and rental combination above the line, as I said you, as at the points A and D. If you take A and D, the per unit cost of production would exceed the price, and the profit would be negative. Okay. So this is for steel. If it is the production of steel, let us take this is the production price line of steel. Any points A and D, the unit cost production would exceed the unit price, the profit will be negative. The profit will be negative. So meanwhile, at a wage rental combination below the line, that is B and C, below the line, the per unit cost production would fall short of the price and the profit would be positive. So note the slope of the flatter blue line, that is PS by AKS. PS by AKS divided by PS by ALS is equal to minus, because it's negatively sloped curve, so minus sign is used, ALS divided by AKS. So it is the ratio between these 2 points is a negative sloping curve between the ratio of ALS and AKS. Okay. Similarly, set up all other wage rental combination that will generate zero profit in the clothing industry. Let us try to understand the zero profit line in a cloth industry. PC represent a line of zero profit in the clothing industry at price PC is given by a steeper red line. It is very steeper red line. Okay. So all the wages combination above the line at the point B and D, as I said, B and D, the prices will generate a negative profit because the cost of production is increasing. So obviously it should be negative. So any points below this red line, say A and C are the two below, generate positive profit. So this line's ratio can be written like this. PC divided by AKC to PC divided by ALC is equal to negative of ALC by AKC. Negative of ALC by AKC. It is also a negatively sloped curve. So with this we can understand the wage and rental combination that can simultaneously be at zero profit in both the industries if it is found the interaction between these two industries intersect at a point E. If the two industries, if the price of inputs, if they intersect at this point E, then we can easily state that those two industries, the one industry, the cotton industry, the other is steel industry, both are producing their commodities at a zero economic profit, where there is no profit gain nor the loss incurred by the firm. So this is the point where both firm can manufacture at a zero profit. Okay. So this point represents the equilibrium wage and rental equilibrium wage and rental rates that would arise in an Heckscher-Ohlin model when the price of a steel is PS and the price of clothing is PC. Okay, so now let us try to understand this the graph. Further, we can study this graph using. So we'll take the same graph, and we see that the production of steel has increased. The blue line represents the production of steel. Now imagine the production of steel has increased from the blue line from here to the next above line. Let us understand, if a country takes up the production of steel more when compared to the earlier. Why the company will take the production of steel more? Because they have capital, they are able to pay the rent to the capital. Then since there is availability of capital in that country, it tries to take up the production of steel. So let us see what happens if the country take up the production of steel. The production of steel has increased from E, and now since the production of steel has increased in that country, the line shifts from, so just earlier you can just observe the equilibrium was at E, and now the new equilibrium will be at F. So the new equilibrium is F. Earlier when E was the older equilibrium, just observe the wage rate. The wage paid to the worker was W1. Now since the production of steel has increased, okay, you know that for producing steel, capital is used, more capital is been used in producing the steel. Obviously, the less involvement of labor into this industry. Now just you can observe at the new equilibrium, the wage rate has reduced from W1 to W2. And now just you can observe on the other side, earlier the steel was produced and the capital, the rental on capital was R1, was paid to the capitalist. And now since there is a more utilization of capital in manufacturing steel, obviously you can just see the rental rates which were given to the capitalist increased from R1 to R2. So you can just see the prices increased. As I said in the previous class, you know the Stopler's Samuelson theorem, what it said? It defines that as the prices of the goods of the commodities increases. So why the prices of the steel increase at an export? Since the cost of price will also increase. That is what the theory said. As there is the increase in goods and production of a steel, it will also give an increase in cost of production. So the cost of production, so as you know that in production of steel, capital is used, more utilization of capital, there is a more demand for capital for producing more steel production. So this will obviously give rise to more demand for capital at a higher rate. The cost of production of steel will also increase from R1 to R2. So this is what has been depicted in this graph. Okay. Now let us understand what has been given here. The equilibrium point will shift from E to F, causing an increase in the equilibrium rental rate from R1 to R2 and the decrease in equilibrium wage rate from W1 to W2. Only with a higher rental rate and a lower wage rate can zero profit be maintained in both industries at a new set of prices. Are you getting my point? So only with this we can maintain a zero profit in both industries. So where the loss can be minimized. Using the slope of the 0 point line, we can show that ALC divided by AKC is always greater than ALS and AKS, which means that the clothing is labor intensive and steel is capital intensive. Thus, the price of steel rises, the payment to the factors used intensively in steel production rises. This is what you should keep in mind. The price of the steel rises when the price of the steel rises in the market, international market. The payment to the factors used to produce steel, that is intensively, the capital is used in production of steel. So capital prices increases. That is the rent increases from R1 to R2. And obviously, while the payment of the other factor falls, it falls, the labors falls. That is what been shown here. From wage 1 to will reduce to W2. If the price of the cloth has raised in the market, so what happens if the price of the cloth is increased in the market? Obviously, we have to find that zero profit equilibrium point. So at this point, what you can observe is, you can see always the line shifts to the rightward like this. When line shifts to the rightward, you can see that the wages paid to the laborers will increase, and the capital which is being used in production of cotton will obviously decrease. That is, if the price of the clothing has raised, the zero profit line for clothing would have shifted right. Obviously, it shifts to right like this. Both this. Shift to right, causing an increase in the equilibrium wage rate and a decrease in the rental rate. Thus, an increase in the price of the clothing causes an increase in the payment to the factor used intensively in clothing production, and a decrease in the payment of the other factor capital. So now you have clearly understood. So hence, this Stopler-Samuelson theorem says an increase in the price of a good will cause an increase in the price of the factor used intensively in that industry, and a decrease in the price of another factor which is not used intensively. Understood? So once again I'll repeat. I hope that you would have better understood this. Stopler-Samuelson theorem, what it says: increase in the price of a good. Whether, if we imagine the price of a good is steel, imagine the steel prices increased, will cause an increase in the price of a factor. It will obviously should increase the price of a factor. What is the factor used in production of steel? It is the capital factor. So the price of this capital factor will increase. That is, the rent will increase from R1 to R2. And the decrease in the price of other factor. The another factor what is used? It is the labor, which will reduce from W1 to W2. Okay. So the Stopler-Samuelson theorem shows there is a positive relationship between changes in the price of an output and changes in the price of the factor used intensively in producing that product. The Stopler-Samuelson theorem shows there is a negative relationship between the change in the price of an output and the change in the price of the factor not used intensively in producing that commodity. Any factor which is not intensively used in producing that commodity, obviously the price of the factor increases. Okay, now there is an exercise given to you all. I hope that you are going to do this exercise. Consider an HO economy in which there are two countries, the United States and France, two goods, wine and cheese, two factors, capital and labor. Suppose a decrease in the price of cheese causes a decrease in wage rate in US economy. Which factor is used intensively in cheese production in France? Which Escher-Volin theorem is used to get this answer explained? So this is your assignment. State what is true about the profit in the steel and clothing industry. State what is true about profit in steel and clothing industry at a wage rental combination given by the following points in figure. Zero profit, zero line in the text. I want you to write this assignment and to post it write it in a web and post it to my email ID. Okay. I hope that you have understood this theorem. Okay. Thank you.